You refuse to wear a suit. Just want to see if you do own a suit.
Yeah, problems.
A lot of Americans have problems with you not respecting.
I don't have such. I will wear a costume after this war will finish.
Okay.
You are not strong.
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring people, you bring them on a propaganda tour.
You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards, but without us, you don't have any cards. The problem is, I've empowered you to be a tough guy, and I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards.
Why don't you wear a suit? Why don't you wear a suit? You're the highest level in this country's office, and you refuse to wear a suit. Just want to see if you do own a suit.
Yeah, problems.
A lot of Americans have problems with you not respecting.
I don't have such. I will wear a costume after this war will finish.
All right. Good morning and welcome to Morning Joe. It's Monday, March 3rd. With us, we have the co-host of our fourth hour, contributing writer at The Atlantic, Jonathan Lemire, president and founder of Eurasia Group and G0 Media. Ian Bremmer is here, columnist and associate editor for the Washington Post, David Ignatius, chairman of the Renewed Democracy Initiative, former world chess champion Garry Kasparov, and Wall Street Journal reporter Alan Cullison. He is a former Moscow correspondent for the Journal, reporting from Russia for over 20 years.
Mr. Kasparov, I suspect this is more personal to you than most. I'm curious your thoughts on what you just saw there, what you saw on Friday, what you've been seeing throughout the weekend.
Yeah, of course, I was surprised by the spat in the White House, but somehow it was expected, because when you look at the actions of this administration and also at the words from many officials like J.D. Vance, you saw that the train has been moving in this direction, and everything they did and said, somehow benefited Russia. So supporting a neo-Nazi party in Germany on Russian funding, supporting a neo-Nazi candidate in Romania, actually open fascist, also funded by Russia. And in everything that, that we saw, every action had a Russian component behind it. And I say that I believe in coincidences, but I also believe in KGB. And I don't understand even now, looked again at this episode, if the deal was good. So why this kind of exchange, derailed it? If the deal was good for the United States, why the J.D. Vance intervened and clearly was an intention to take Zelensky off the balance and make sure that this signing is not happening?
Well, it certainly triggered a response in Europe. One day after that tense Oval Office confrontation, President Zelensky arrived in London, where British Prime Minister Keir Starmer walked out of 10 Downing Street to greet him with a warm embrace. He reaffirmed the UK's support for Ukraine and pledged a $2.8 billion military loan to the country.
I hope you've heard some of that. Cheering in the street, that is the people of the United Kingdom coming out to demonstrate how much they support you, how much they support Ukraine, and our absolute determination to stand with you, unwavering determination.
The Prime Minister also hosted a high-stakes summit yesterday with European leaders, urging nations to boost aid, maintain pressure on Russia, and form a coalition of the willing for Ukraine's defense. Compare that with the contentious Oval Office meeting on Friday between President Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. The visit started off cordial, but got more tense as Trump took questions from reporters in the room. The meeting turned hostile after Vance accused Zelensky of being disrespectful and not being thankful enough for U.S. assistance, leading to several minutes of heated exchanges.
What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to...
Count one. During the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You
God bless. You will not have war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly
Remember
what you're doing.
this. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influenced.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influenced.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having
not
cards.
Playing cards.
Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country.
Have you said thank you once this entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting, have you said thank you?
The problem is, I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing. All right, I think we've seen enough. What do you think? Huh? This is going to be great television, I will say that.
Fascinating that J.D. Vance, I guess maybe for the first time, decided to just jump in a meeting and take over a meeting where Donald Trump was running that meeting. Really interesting. So many things deeply disturbing about that meeting, but you don't have to take that from me. Just look at Marco Rubio slouched on the couch when the question is asked of a man who has been enduring the most horrific of slaughter from Russian troops over the past 3 years, and watching people that he knew and loved killed, and watching the country that he loved invaded by Russian invaders and killed, asked if he was wearing a suit, why he wasn't wearing a suit. Interesting, Winston Churchill never asked that question in Washington. Well, the reaction to that stunning meeting, that sickening meeting, was swift. The Wall Street Journal editorial board wrote in part this: the point of the meeting was supposed to be progress toward an honorable peace for Ukraine, and the event winner was Russia's Vladimir Putin. But as with the war, Mr. Zelensky didn't start this Oval Office exchange. Was he supposed to tolerate an extended public denigration of the Ukrainian people who've been fighting a war for survival for the 3 years? The Washington Post editorial writing, quote, Trump, for his part, should recognize the big picture. If he wants to avoid World War III, he should heed the lessons of World War II. Appeasing dictators doesn't work. Putin, a former KGB officer, responds to toughness, not trembling. He respects force, not flattery. And just ask the people of Georgia that, and the people of Ukraine that, and the people of Crimea that. One Putin invasion after another, met by non-responses by American presidents until 2022. And we see what happens there. And the New York Times columnist Tom Friedman writing, it's hard to express what a break this is in American foreign policy. But I can't think of a single time when an American president declared that the democratically elected leader of a country preserving liberty was, quote, a dictator who started the war with his neighbor, when it was vicious neighboring dictator who actually started the war. This is a total perversion of U.S. foreign policy practice by every president since World War I. And that was Tom Friedman, the Washington Post editorial page and the Wall Street Journal editorial page.
And yesterday we did hear from some Republicans on this. We heard from Republican Senator, a member of the Intelligence Committee, James Langford, as well as House Speaker Mike Johnson, who were both clear about the threats posed by Russian President Vladimir Putin.
No, we're not turning our back on Ukraine, nor should we. Putin is a murderous KGB thug that murders his political enemies and is a dictator there. And so we've seen that. We've seen his aggression. Countries around him have seen that. What I hear President Trump saying over and over again is we need to get to a stop in fighting, find some resolution. I understand Zelensky is rightfully concerned that Putin has violated every single agreement he's ever signed and that he can't be trusted. I think they understand each other in that. Obviously, there are differences where Zelensky wants more in the way of some kind of security guarantees. The United States is not willing to be able to put troops on the ground.
I think Vladimir Putin is an old school communist, a former KGB agent. He's not to be trusted, and he is dangerous. The way I view this is that China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea are engaged in a new Axis powers, and they are not on America's side.
Everybody, of course, in the administration, in the Trump administration, read straight off notes, took the company line, even bizarrely, Tulsi Gabbard. A lot of people in the intel community asking why she's deciding to do PR instead of her